He was known as the Circus King, John Ringling. The man built a circus empire. He lived fine tailored suits, expensive cigars, and he had his own private label of bourbon. On this episode, we salute John Ringling with a tasty cigar and a sweet sip of bourbon. Welcome to the greatest show on earth. I'm Lee.
I'm Diane.
And this is another episode of Cigars and Cocktails.
Welcome.
Why don't you tell them about what you're going to review for the cigar and the bourbon?
For the cigar, we are going to be reviewing an Ashton Symmetry Prestige. And for the bourbon, we have Knob Creek, Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey.
Is that in the Jim Beam family?
It is actually in the Jim Beam family.
Okay, then we'll get to that. In this episode, when I did my research, I wanted to try to find an Americanic character that, kind of pioneered certain things, and one of the individuals I came across was John Ringling, who's actually, where he lived was actually near us, where we live in Sarasota, Florida. And he had a love for fine cigars and tailored suits. Art, and him and his brothers in 1907, they bought the Barnum and Bailey show for $410,000.
Wow.
And at that time, that was a lot of money.
A lot of money now.
Yeah, it's a lot of money now, especially for us. He kind of paved the way, him and his brothers. I mean, they pioneered what the circus was. They took it to another stratosphere here in America. Mm-hmm. So around 1912, him and his brother Charles started to buy up tons of land in Sarasota. And at one point, they owned 25% of the land in Sarasota, all of Sarasota.
Wow.
And, he was responsible for developing Siesta Key, Lido, Longboat, St. Arms Circle that's out there in Sarasota. Mm-hmm. It's known as Bird Key now. They used to call it the Sarasota Keys.
Yeah.
So,
That's cool.
Yeah, they pioneered their way through. And at one point in time, in 1925, his personal wealth, holdings, and other companies, he was worth $200 million.
Wow.
Yeah, that was 1925.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so, and I know in 1929, this is before the stock market crashed, he'd outlived all of his five brothers that were involved in the circus. There were 7 kids in his family. Wow. They bought the American Circus Corporation in 1929, and it was $1.7 million when they bought it, which is like $25 million in today's money. So the guy had money. To burn. So,
but he died broke.
Yeah, pretty much. And in 1912 was when him and Mabel, his wife, they built their house on the water there in Sarasota, and they named it the Catazan. And they had tons of parties there.
Mm-hmm. Lavish.
Huge parties.
It's a beautiful house.
Yeah, beautiful house. They had politicians, Hollywood stars, like the mayor of New York at the time, the governor of New York.
Everybody.
An actress named Billie Burke, who was actually Glinda. She was the Good Witch in Wizard of Oz.
Wow.
And he had his yacht parked off the water right out because they were right on the water, and they had a terrace out back. Mm-hmm. And he had a band.
There was a wedding. There were 2 weddings going on when we were there. Yeah. It was cool.
Out on the terrace out there. And back in the day, he would have bands playing on the yacht for his guests that were walking. And they would party until the dawn. So he was It was pretty. He was a cool cat. I mean, and the house was beautiful. When we took a tour of the house, you walk in. I don't know what was that, like a parlor that you walk into?
Yeah, like a little. Well, not little, but a big entryway.
Yeah. And it opens up into, kind of like this big grand room.
Sitting areas. Yeah. Several large designated sitting areas.
Yeah.
One was kind of like a grand formal room, and there were 2 kind of offset rooms around it.
And you could see like this grand staircase that kind of winds up into the upstairs.
You can only see part of it.
We didn't go up into the upstairs. We didn't take that tour. We just took the tour at the bottom. But it was really cool. And if you are in the area, go check it out. And they also have a circus museum there where they go through the history of the circus and all the stuff that. They had
this great model. Remember that big model? And like how they roll into a city and set it up.
It's almost like a city within a city because of the circus. It was neat. It was really neat. Cool. The sheer size of the operation. So, but we wanted to tie him into it because he loved cigars and he had his own private label of bourbon, which I tried and tried to research what kind of cigars that he smoked and what kind of bourbon that he had, and I was going to try to find and research it and maybe review it. But if anyone out there can do some research or find what kind of cigars that he smoked, I'd love to know. So And in the bourbon too. We'd love to know that too.
Yeah.
Tell them about the museum.
The museum's beautiful. A lot of marble in there. He loved collecting art, and it shows throughout the entire museum. It's kind of in a U shape, and in the middle of the U, which is where they're having one of the weddings, it's kind of this sprawling lawn that goes back and it faces the Sarasota Bay.
It's really cool
It's
looking.
gorgeous. Each room is kind of set up like a house. You know, museums you think are usually big and open and wide, and this was kind of set up where it had different rooms. And within the rooms were kind of a different collection of art, in either a genre or a different subject matter.
And the lighting, the lighting was awesome.
Well, there's a ton of natural light.
As far
windows.
as filming and taking pictures, they had the lighting there to, obviously for the artwork.
So you
and
take
stuff,
really good pictures in a place that holds good art.
Yeah, it was awesome. And some of the stuff. Remember that jewelry box they had that was like really ornate. I thought it was a jewelry box.
tortoise shell, and I don't remember which wood, but it was black. And each little drawer had a painting on it, and then it had this little interior. It almost looked like a room. It had a black and white
like
checkered
dollhouse.
floor.
Yeah.
And it had little mirrors that surrounded the inside, like as if everyone, like when you're trying on a dress or something, you have like the panel of mirrors that are, kind of go around. That's kind of what it was like. Like it would showcase a tiara or some kind of beautiful piece of jewelry in there. It was
just like
really
one
neat.
piece of something he bought.
And then the top
over in
opened up,
Europe.
remember? And then it was all the
Yeah, I
inside.
tried
the
to take a
top.
picture of the top. There was people standing there with like, can you take a
I'm
picture
short.
of the top?
I can't. I said that.
I'm not very tall, but I tried to take a picture of it from the
Because
top.
we wanted to see inside the top
Yeah.
of it.
There was other people that wanted to see inside too that were standing around us.
Yeah,
So,
I started it. Sorry.
Did you start?
I
that?
started it,
Oh,
yeah.
take the picture.
I said, hey, can you go like this? Because I'm short. I was kind of, trying to see in. And I said, hey, put your camera up there and take a picture.
We didn't get to see the other side of it because we had to get to the house because we had a certain deadline to get to the house to go take a tour of the house. But it was really
Gorgeous.
Yeah, it was a good day. We strolled through the garden, the rose garden.
And there's this little bridge over like the interior courtyard. There's a little bridge that takes you from one side of the museum to the other. It's really pretty.
Yeah, and since we went to it as when we were younger,
Kids, yeah.
they've changed a lot there.
A lot. Even when you and I went.
Yeah, they've changed a lot of. They've revamped a lot of it. So if
Gorgeous.
you're in the area, Sarasota, Florida,
You can stroll the rose garden. They have like big banyan trees and just areas you can sit.
beautiful.
There's some restaurants on site too.
Yeah, that was a new addition, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
So there's a lot there, and there's a lot of history
Pretty.
there that I think you would enjoy. But the guy loves cigars, so
He loved that was one of the two big points. They didn't tell you what he liked to smoke, or actually three. Fine cigars, tailored suits, and his bourbon.
and his private label of bourbon.
So-
he lived through the Roaring '20s, and they lived in excess. Unfortunately,
He had excess till the end.
yeah, unfortunately, around 1929 when his wife Mabel died, that's when things changed for John. He made some bad decisions. There was taxes, there was different things. The historians say that he lost his bearings pretty much. His focus on really what he
Well, the
needed to do.
house and the museum and stuff he kind of did for Mabel, was my understanding.
Yeah.
That was kind of his
And-
gift to her.
Even in 1936, when his health was failing and his doctor put him down to one cigar a day, and he did it. He listened to the doctor's orders reluctantly, but he smoked it to the nub.
That's what he said. Yeah.
So, and then he died 1936, December 2nd, and at age 70. But he was, one of our American icons in the circus industry. And a little footnote that a lot of people don't know of is that his nephew, John Ringley North, who also lived in Bird Key in Sarasota, he took over in 1936, and he ran the circus to 1967
Wow.
when he sold it to Feld Entertainment, which also does the Disney.
do
Disney
they?
on Ice, they do all that stuff.
They have a local
Yeah, they're
corporation.
based here, but there's really not much in history that talks about. You can Google and you'll find John Ringley North. He was like a Playboy type character. There's a lot of pictures of him with Hollywood actresses of the time and stuff like that. He was in a movie that they did, and I don't know the name. It was done in the 50s, like 1951, in Sarasota, about the circus. Had Charlton Heston star in
Is
it.
that the one where the train crashed?
I don't know if the train crashed.
Oh, okay.
You're
Sorry.
asking me details of something I know nothing about. Anyway, that was just a side footnote. John Ringley North. Look him up. because there was a lot of history on that. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But it was a fascinating story. I thought I knew about John Ringling. We both thought we knew. You know, he's just a circus guy. You know, he had a house, he went broke. That's all we thought. You know?
Yeah, and museum.
We didn't know the full details of his life, and there's a lot more involved in the history of his family. You know, there were 7 kids, so you know there was only so much I could cover in this episode. But why don't you, speaking of the cigars that he smoked, not that this is one of them, but this is my segue to the cigar.
I picked an Ashton for us. It's an Ashton Symmetry Prestige. I actually picked it because it has this really beautiful kind of Art Deco label on it. That's why I picked it. Well, I know what you're going to say it smells like.
It smells like roses. God,
so,
it's good.
This is a Churchill size. This is the bigger size than I normally buy. What?
You looking at me, the monitor, or the camera?
I'm looking all over the place.
They're right there. That's where you need to look.
Shut up.
The folks are watching us.
You're going to cut that out, right?
Sure, continue.
You're going to cut that out, right?
Absolutely.
All right, we have the Ashton. This has a Dominican binder, a Dominican and Nicaraguan filler, and it has an Ecuadorian wrapper.
Did you say what size it was?
It's a Churchill.
Okay, I was just gonna say. See, I'm learning.
Churchill.
I thought that because of the size, that looks like a Churchill.
It's a Churchill.
Okay.
You are correct. This is a medium-bodied cigar. It starts out a little spicy. This one does, but just soon after it started mellowing out. It has notes of cedar and of course spice. It changes to sweet, nutty, kind of a little bit of maple in the middle, a little bit of nougat, and then at the end it gets a little spicy again. But it's a really good cigar. It's made really well. I've not had an Ashton before. You smoked it too. Did you enjoy it? It was a little spicy for you?
It started out spicy, but again, I like the
sweeter one.
Sweet
That's
taste of
okay.
the
You're
cigars.
getting out of your comfort zone.
I tried it,
You did.
and she's right. I mean, that was exactly how I would describe it because it started off spicy, mellows out, and then toward the end, you taste that spice again. And I'm just not a fan of the spicy type cigars.
No, but it was a good cigar. It was a good
As
cigar.
far as a well-constructed cigar, yes, it was a good cigar. And
Yes.
what did you pair it with? What did you drink with it?
We chose a bourbon in honor of John Ringling. So I had to go bourbon shopping. So I picked this, the Knob Creek. It's Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. It's 100 proof. We did try it by itself.
We did. We did.
We did. We tried it by itself, not in a cocktail. I do not have it today in this, but as we said before, we rarely drink these straight, so it was a little intense to drink. But we learned just take little bitty sips.
Kind of swirl it around, let it breathe,
and after
roll it on the tongue.
After doing that, taking little bitty sips, it worked pretty good. So
Eventually, you just don't taste it.
true. But it did taste really good with the cigar once you kind of get past the shock of drinking bourbon straight. But I'll figure out a cocktail to mix it with in some other episode down the
Should
road.
figure something out.
Yeah, I can put it with something sweet.
Put it with me.
It doesn't work that way.
Sweet.
Sorry.
Well, all right. Well, I hope
That's
you enjoyed this episode. I actually enjoyed doing the research on this one because I mean, look, see all this.
His notes.
I had a ton of notes on this.
Yes.
So, and there was so much with this guy. You know what
You
he
have to
was
scale it
involved
down
in.
and scale it down and scale it down.
He was responsible for developing a lot of the stuff out there in Sarasota. I mean, you go out there, they have statues, of him. There's plaques. There's different things about him. I mean,
He built a bridge that goes out to the.
He built the bridge, the Ringling
had that
Causeway, built to get across, and it took 1 year to build it. And they said he drove his green Rolls Royce across the bridge for the first time, and then
Before the bridge, they'd have ferries, so.
Yeah, and he was a money man. He was a capitalist. He knew that if he owned that real estate out there, he needed to find an easier way for people to get out to the Keys, so he could show the real estate. And there was a land boom in Sarasota during that time because of him. So when you go to downtown Sarasota, think of John Ringling, because him and his brother Charles were really the driving force behind all of that. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and please subscribe if you're watching on YouTube.
Follow.
Buttons around there somewhere, down over there, right? I can't. I'm not gonna try. So please subscribe and make sure you click the bell so you can get updates on YouTube.
Notifications.
And if you're watching on Facebook, click the follow button. And if you like the video, click the like button. Share it, and
please share us.
And keep watching. So you want to lead us out?
Yes, in John Ringling fashion, we're gonna say smoke it to the nub today.